While you were talking about the systemic stuff, I think it actually brought up another piece of the question of like why it's so important, why we're saying anti-oppressive, anti-racism instead of just DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion. Do you want to speak to that a little bit about why we have that differentiation with those?
Yeah. When we think of diversity, we think aesthetically, right? We think, okay, diversity looks like a Black person, a white person, an Asian person, right? We think we need to create this team so that aesthetically it looks like it's diverse.
Equal
And
representation.
yes.
Yeah.
And so the more we're in this work, the more we see that that is the common thread in organizations. But there is a thinking process, a systemic way of thinking that continues to be dominant. That suppresses maybe the individuality that person has, the culture that person has, and so we can look diverse and still continue having that dominant culture in power, right? And so what makes this work important for Hannah and I is we know that there are things below the surface that we need to address, that need to be addressed. And sometimes people just need coaching to show, okay, there's also this aspect here, and there's, and so we try to help people by, asking questions and helping them see this grander picture beyond just diversity and aesthetics. Yeah, what do you want to add, Hannah?
Yeah, well, and you mentioned coaching and kind of consulting and the work that we do. And I'm thinking, like, for people listening, what does that tangibly look like, right, in a work environment? And I think of, we were talking earlier, and the example I gave was like, there's this office, right, that has 50 employees, and 25 of them are white males, 20 of them are white females, and then 5 of them are a varying of people of color. And so they realize, like, hey, this is not very diverse or inclusive, and we need to change that because we recognize that maybe it doesn't reflect the clients that we're serving or the customers that we're reaching. And we've heard that it's important to have a diversity of perspectives. So let's try to do this. So they work really hard over the next 2 or 3 years. And by the end of those 3 years, they have a switch where it's like about 50% white people and 50% people of color, and a variation of gender diversity kind of throughout that as well. But what happens is organizations will work to that and think, oh, we've done our work. And then slowly over the next couple of years, all of those people of color then quit. And it's just like, wait, what's going on? There must be something under the surface here. And what has happened is you've changed your picture, right? You have better representation, but you haven't adjusted the culture of your organization. You haven't addressed the default way of doing things. And so the default way is oftentimes in this country, the white way of doing things. There's this kind of this white culture of dominance. You said culture of dominance earlier. Let's just call it what it is. White is considered to be the default and the norm in this country. And so if you don't fall into that category and don't know how to switch into that culture or code switch into that, it gets exhausting. And eventually you're like, I keep hitting my head up against a wall. I can't work here anymore. And so just like that, you're back to less people of color than what you originally started with. And you're like stuck there scratching your head. Like, we worked so hard, but you just changed the numbers, but you didn't change the game. essentially.
That's good. And as you were saying that, I imagined so many different places that I've been involved in and how that's what was missing, right?
Mm,
Being
yeah.
able to being able to take a few steps back as an organization and look at what culture has been created here, what
Mm,
narrative has been created here, and that is a huge part of the work that we do.